Perverted and Criminal Satanism of Liber 333. Book 2, Practical Vampiric Alchemy. As blood flows through dirt, the possession by fire comes into the clay being. Through active participation, the moon comes in with fortune, either manifesting with the light beings, or shayateen min al-jinn. We must work at practicing the chants and expressing the cosmology. As blood flows through the dirt, the possession by fire comes into the clay being. Through active participation, the moon comes in with fortune of either manifesting with the light beings or shayateen min al-jinn. We must work at practicing the chants and expressing the cosmology we are aligned with in any circumstance. We are not seeking comfort, but it is steadfastness that invites us to bring forth an unending control and manifesting of another dimension as the sons and daughters at the forefront. Jinn may be called undead because they have respite. Their worlds and true beings can be a terror to both those they guide and those they rebel against. You may think you can escape them, but they lie just beyond the mundane senses. Through brimstone gates and into a lake of fire is where some will become aware. But for their chosen, the infernal communion is a conscious endeavor. Explore your future and go beyond your reflection with a series of repetitions. Some will feel it necessary to shed blood in order to open a porthole to witness the dusk world. The news can tell us of sites of crimes and disposal sites if you want to tap such work that is already done. Blood and other materials can appear or disappear psychically and spiritually. Whether or not that is the case physically, are we going insane by the experience of dark spirituality? In the South, within the circles, the demon altar dies each day to themselves, and their inner God and their inner life gradually embraces their damnation. Tobacco is symbolic of the gateway between the worlds. Azoth, Hierophant, and Noctulius, the devil, sees their signs on such poisons, and it becomes an daemon again. Bit by bit, they experience darkness that they proclaim within and without. I write this just before the first night of the crescent, ending the 6th month of 1440. It is those darkest nights that they say to bury the sign after it has been carried around. Vampire or Kalki. Vampire Varkalaki. Pentagram is a gate of two bats as one with human heads for the psychic travel to find a sleeping victim. Some will treat their blood as a god that when invoked will shoot forth a sort of lightning from their hands. Most will leave their shadows in the unconscious, and most of the rest will oppose some part of what they really are. Reversion, to work with what is primal, is most appropriate in establishing our true identities, bringing in an awareness of something metaphysical other than ourselves that we can bond with is another. These practices of Tantra and Yoga are often a struggle, but they will bring the neonates into the status of external adepts as they gain self-knowledge and self-realization that furthers the desired spiritual the desired spiritual particulars. Do you know what and who is Satan and the acausal demons? Are you able to work the spiritual forces towards your ends? Are you having an effect to disempower priestcraft or statecraft of an established order? Are you going beyond the childish way of being naughty because others won't like it? We do not need to be upon or against their morality. We can establish in ourselves and more the order of the spiritual worlds on our side, regardless of if society approves or disapproves of any particular element. We can feed like a predator on their failings to establish this. Even the scriptures and sacred items of other spiritual paths can carry over their power into our own spiritual manifestations. Those in a magical order may have tasks to perform that will be specifically given to them in addition to traditional ones. A neonate, those in a magical order may have tasks to perform that will be specifically given to them in addition to traditional ones. A neonate goes far and wide for both ritual and to involve themselves in other groups. And they will establish their own temple, even if this is part of a table or portable setup. They will indulge themselves in traditional magic, but they will not protect themselves or practice banishing rituals of the results of what they choose to involve themselves in. You may send energy and beings forth if it is not just to attract in and bring a causal through you. Some will fake conversion into a faith to use their centers with secret intentions. Some will psychically prey on and intentionally sabotage the groups that they are a part of. Some will direct the programming of the group and individuals themselves. The 21 satanic statements of Conrad Raburi are memorized by those in the Temple of Blood and meditated upon. Some sort of creed and music that are authentically one's own should be adapted. My stomach's growling at me, I feel it. Some sort of creed and music that are authentically one's own should be adapted. Predation can be physical, psychic, or spiritual. The important thing is to know that you are probably not as limited as you have been taught or concluded yourself to be. What is the real abomination? Are you ready to be beyond human? Is there any reason for others to be afraid of you or us? Do you become a sacrifice for the world by your initiation, or does the world become victimized by what you deem as guidance? It seems that many paths would want to provide a gap of sorts in the trials of life. A Noctulian goes at life in a way others will interpret as alien. Past terror and perversion is thought to be the evolutionary results desired. The evolutionary result of desire, how was I supposed to phrase it? Is there a point beyond no return in which a person remains ever haunted by dark entities that connect a person via the Tempel of Blood pool to the tortures of hell? Vampiric acts start by psychic projections of feeding on others. Vampiric acts start by psychic projections of feeding on others, and may end in causing real pain and psychiatric illness in others. Through this, a secret blood family will feed off you. Do you want the blood to rain down in your perception of grace and transfiguration from the blood father? Black alchemy is to break down of what is, to work change with what remains. 18.333 current relies on shock as seen in the tower of the tarot and Abatu. Its numbers get you to think about what fascism and the lurker of the threshold could be in terms of development. Asath, the Hanged Man, and Tiamat are what the evil songs are meant to merge with. Learning is key to acceptance or blasphemy. There are other entities which workings can be aligned with symbolically. The lunar cycles are important to observe in what lasts for a season, are that which is repeated in different months. 3 quarters between sunset and sunrise is a good time for rituals, and you might want to either keep a particular substance with you or within reach for you the whole time. In the darkest of nights, the signs of the devil or Noctulius imbibe the demonolator and the place where the substance is released upon the practitioner before he leaves the ritual place for good in a final effort to push himself past comfort with exercise. Chants are alternated in the days afterwards. Both midway through the night and 3 quarters in remains the time to chant and run. The Noctulian switches to the diet of a carnivore for a season before they drink the rest of that substance which they were supposed to carry with them. There are more instructions for those officially doing this process. but it goes to say that the initiate would be as one who acknowledges the holiness of the devil and would say with fervor, I am a Noctulian, I am not a human being. What are you? And how can these types of processes relate to the surrender to God instead of becoming a living demon? Remember my flag that I have used, the green, the black, and the white, and the averse star of the fleshy nexion of the human being being shown there. Another season-long ritual can produce a sort of master. I personally think of the 91.1 governor names of the Enochian elemental tablets within the 30 authors as something to meditate upon with their attributes and hierarchies. A person does not have to acquire or adapt the persona of a member of the national the nation also the L Estate Deutsche Arbeiter Partei. Okay, how do I pronounce that? Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei. I'm not pronouncing German right today, but willingness to question what is accepted as history and take pleasure in your physical origins outside of society, outside of societal acceptance is an important type of stimulus. The Temple of Blood sigil, other signs to salute. And books of aspects of history and philosophy that most might want wiped from memory would be reviewed for the first 8 sessions of the ritual. With the first full moon to the last one of the ritual, a person chants, smears a powder representing a curse, and whips themselves 88 times, morning and evening, to end times music that fades after the ritual. In a way, it can be said that such Temple of Blood members will have been as what Paul says in Galatians 3:13, but by becoming their own curse, which is seen as the freedom from the law mentioned in Galatians 3:10. More and more they are in Atazoth, and the wandering blindly as they are mocked by God and prolonged in this state, according to Al-Quran 2:15. Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamunduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun. Liber 333 by Temple of Blood has a section that should be labeled as Akra Buamelu or Gir Tablil, which is the scorpion men of Tiamat that are said to have been made against the younger demiurges. They open the doors to Nergal and Chemosh and give entrance to Kigal, which is also known just like Akra Buamelo is known as Deir Tablil. Kigal is known as Er Setu, Arale, Kukku, Irkala, and Kur. and that is their term for the underworld. Here, we can continue with Akkaru, which could be at Churu or in Aramea, or Akkaru in Aramea. And that's vampire, follower, hinderer, plowman, who gains by weapon or tool, but will not necessarily show how these two volumes differ, because what I am doing here is not representing my own Temple of Blood Bible, but my interpretive response. My interpretive response to both this one and that which is of the Australian version, the Temple of Them, Black Order of the Dragon, along with Tempel of along with the Temple of Azathoth, are a collection of scholars of the dark arts of reddening draconian Luciferianism. Some orders will confuse society, but will fill their tanks with those who have been aware since childhood. Self-proclaimed vampires are not as other people in all terms. Those who desire to be predators are not just human beings. They already are of the Brukalikos, which is the Greek variation, are Braikalikos, are Vorvalakos, are Vourdulakos, the harmful zombies, but without dying. Aktia Naktatar, pestilence worker of Tiamat, pestilence worker of night death, may be Michael Ford's magical name, but it forms a symbolic step of going beyond a sense of self-deification to being reborn as a one fire of Naktatar, incense, flames, magical weapons, and other symbolic elements may be needed to remind the practitioner of magic that he is no longer in mundane life. If you are comfortable in extending your perception of your surroundings, you may see apparitions and must be firm in your willpower to control your experience. Do you want to feed? Tiamat is the true red dragon. And along with the Varkalaki pentagram, Kali is invoked for the one who takes off red, exposing white clothes, condemning the victim to hardship and death. But 77 being mentioned could abrogate such wishes because, 77 is longer than a typical life that's even, not cut short by disease. By, well, 77 is not exactly dying of old age, but you know what I mean. Life expectancy. Yeah, that's a better term. Wolves, snakes, and ravens merge in the presence of scorpions. Barkolakis work unsuspected because their evil is in emotional projections. Scorpions give power to the flight of the raven that cloaks the lunar power of the wolves. Al-Quran 113:4 talks of she that blows on knots, and so is the witch who weaves in the darkness for the Varkolake to connect to the moon on ordinary and especially on lunar eclipse or high pollution nights. The mythology of witches and demons varies per area, and Alp has a more sexual role in its feeding. Anak Zehrer will eat dead bodies and sleep with its left eye open, holding its thumb. What's that going to look like? Okay. And sleep with its left eye open and holding its thumb. An Untatar is said to spread diseases after developing for 9 days. Anak Tatar is said to be of Belial and work on a causal level. My inaugural address of Satan video was not about a particular person, political party, or nation, but about how society is becoming more completely under control of what 2 Corinthians 4:4 calls the God of this world and age, humans who refuse to take off the natural man, as Romans 1:26-27, 1 Corinthians 2:14, 1 Corinthians 15:44-47, James 1:23-24, Alma 26:12, which is, that's in the Book of Mormon. I thought I'd throw in some extra references here. Mosiah 3:19, also in the Book of Mormon. Moses 1:10-14, and that's in the Pearl of Great Price. Doctrine and Covenants 67:10-12, and Doctrine and Covenants 128:14. It used to be known as the Book of Commandments. Recommends can turn this lustly power towards becoming a Nexion for Satan, Lucifer, through rituals of many forms of nature, Baphomet, Belial, Satan, Lucifer, Leviathan, Pan, Ladla, Tiamat, and by the mentions of whatever entities the berserker pleases. The darkness of shape-shifting is evoked in the vampiric ritual their text describes. Some meet dark Calvary, who asks them to renounce Christianity and put on strange ointments, but those who ask them to put on animal skins too seem to revoke more murders. Sometimes animal skins are with the skin of an evil magician who died, or an executed murderer, or other person who would have really deserved being executed, one might say. With counterclockwise circles, demonic forces of animal-like forces are invoked, while the witch imagines they are such a beast. Then they go forth to act out their will. In the Black Order of the Dragon, members swear to take no limited being as a god, except themselves. They see magic as being about change and the animalistic side of life as something to explore. They will deify imposed senses of rules, accept balance. They will defy imposed senses of rules, accept balance, and to experience and otherwise learn. Flames of the moon, Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn are about as the would-be vampire focuses on their strengths as Noctulians, Asathites, Azana, Ginians, Litigonians, Abatuites, and Naasians. The Vampiri proclaim they are such by the beasts they acknowledge and the blood they connect to Tiamat with. Weird, desire, hell, the devil, war, and Ion are the positive spaces that they dwell in. Tempel of Azagthoth would review cases of any of the shadow sphere workings of the Red Dragon, Luna, Karu, Pan, Arlela, Kali, Chronozon, which that's a unique spelling of Choronzom, Choronzon, Choronzon, Choronzom, and Barkalake. To see those who did them, they could be a member who would evolve as part of the degrees of initiate, Akkaru, incubus or succubus, magus, and Varkalake. Black Order of the Dragon uses some of the forms mentioned, some by methods found with Agrippa and more mainstream occultist and Austin Osman Spare's reduction method. Symbolic drawings represent complete sets of ideas and become focal points. There is more to Hermeticism than ancient Egypt and representations of such traditions. Even mainstream religions seem to hide such alchemy and other esotericism in plain sight. Truly, the more accepted spiritual forms can be used with heretical meanings and intentions. I knew a person whom it was hoped would turn her life around upon moving to Las Vegas, Nevada. Could her transformation into something that her parents reluctantly later believed was capable of almost any human evil imaginable have had something to do with the well over a dozen hidden references to the Anunnaki and other dark occult themes in the land and its landmarks. Ouroboros. Ouroboros would mean it finds its tail to be food and such existence. Either the endings regenerate beginnings, or our lower selves give feedback and become integrated with our higher selves. Islam, by its many names, through history and before, opposed narcissism. Charlemagne was no stranger to self-aggrandizement and was seen in all his conquering and oppressing, which was only tempered by people appearing to accept the Christianity. After his death, his unrealistic kingdom withered like Narcissus would have after becoming the Narcissus. The Emerald Tablet does not find reference before Kitab Sir al-Khaliqat ul-Tabiyat au Kitab il-Hakim Balnias. Balanas, the wisest book on the secret of cause. But people consider it to originate as much as over 36,000 years before this text was around, that was around by the 700s of the Common Era. This text may not really be for the whitewashed occultism, but Luciferian potential reached by initiation and other experience. The control spoken of seems to go beyond cosmic knowing and certainly indicates there is more to existence than general history. For me, lucid dreaming was never a priority. But that doesn't mean I have not worked on becoming aware of my dreams and manipulating dimethyltryptamine levels in my body. Some would say all out-of-body experiences would be lucid dreaming. Experiences like a sense of being dead, noises, lights, encounters with spiritual beings, life reviews, unreal stress, tranquility, inability to move, a sense of being out of the body, a sense of ascent, a sense of descent, a sense of knowing a deity, in return, may be able to be controlled to a degree. People have been working on virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and ways to contain and continue consciousness beyond death. We need to question our limits and possibly consider others that would improve things if considered. Draco is generally recognized with 72 stars, which makes it a perfect symbol for not only the pentagram, the chiefs of the Goetia, and a major division of heaven, but it is an indication of north and the cycles of creation and destruction. Its form is connected to the trapezoid, and that is thought to be an alternative meaning for the firmament of waters, or Pilsen in the 6th Enochian call. The coils can be connected to the 28 living dwellings, or Ne Paradeal. In the 7th Enochian call, we can relate the wisdom of serpents to the Naz Avab ox, or the 26 pillars of hyacinths, where initiates are prepared over time according to the 8th Enochian key. Maybe I should just say O with all the... No, I'll stick to this style of pronunciation. The experimentation of this Luciferian ascent or descent is shown among the Thafafeh Pa Vanapa Alane Odd Obza are 8 vials of wrath for 2.5 times in the 9th Enochian call. The identification with the body is shown in the Virk op Eapan Odd Rakler Maase Bagle Kaaska, or oak with 22 branches, as nest of lamentation and weeping, laid up because of the earth, to its La Patralx Yalke Matib Namig Manans Alara Gane Angelard, are one rock that brings down 1,000, even as the heart of man does his thoughts. Draco is referenced in Revelations 12:4 and Doctrine and Covenants 29:36 as taking 1/3 of heaven under its wing, so to say. That and the serpent connection to mathematical analysis reminds me of the Vabzir, our eagle, Kasarman Hawk, Ad Ta Yata, Sakis, Saba Korum, Yana, are Yaga, or Na or Ga. The last is Na or Ga. 4 of whom it is measured, and it is as whose number is 31, are whose number is 50. The flow which visits and the enlightening is shown in the 12th Enochian key among the visiting of the Sanaf Babage Ob are 28 southern rulers, and how that can be as the negative of the positive in the 7th. The 13th Enochian call can be referred to the wavering sinister side, and consciousness changes of snake symbolism in its Nape'e Babagin Desbrin Vux Anna Ring Van Da Alim E Alis Alag Orspa are swords of the south that have 42 eyes, stir up wrath and sin, causing men intoxication. I will close by referencing the opposing side of the snake symbolism and its relevance to life in this world with the 14th Enochian call with the words of Narame, Baghe, Baspus, Oyad, Destrint, Mirk, Althil, Dodds, Talhame, Kaaska, Hammin, Desbrin, Arak, Abar, are sons of ferocity and daughters of justice, which sit upon 24 seats to try all living beings of the earth with the 1636 age, which I have under you. Question reality. The basis of reality must be as the first Enochian call says, Subaya Udya Pam Udvilya Pam Yes, whose beginning is non-essential and its end is impossible. Then we arrive in the second Enochian call at it saying, Lap no one trove course tagiok manyan yedon. For the becoming for you is a building such as is not except in the mind of the omnipotent. And the rational of thought into being would be known in experiencing the saying, Zamran Nikauzodos Azambriel Labzir Yoyan, reveal in power and make me a strong trance, because I am of the eternally living. In the third Enochian, well, I guess we're still in second Enochian key. If we are going to include non-physical planes of existence, the third Enochian key saying, Fa fin yes op Onianoag dignitam vavananagil pan pure mal pure gia chaos peeled. The intent is that from your highest containers and the facets of your government, you could work my power, pouring down fires of life and increase constantly upon earth. The 4th through 6th Enochian calls are mysteries of the 2nd through 4th degrees, Vyev Diev, the Vyev, Od, Sadiev. For those who want to inquire further into the nature and experience of reality, I agree that we need to realize we do not and will not have omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence as we seek to be grounded in this world with connection to the causal realms, typified by more than the 19th through 48th Enochian keys, are the call of the 30 authors and its Lielarnzum Paz Liet Mas Dios Yenzip Zaxiak Louis Ziem Tauxo Lia Tan Zin Pope Her Asp Lien Tor Nya Vta Dis Za Bang Rie and Teeks. Mainstream Christianity, with its all male and positive claim to Godhead, has disallowed the benefit of the all female and the negative. If we can't grasp at our worthiness and be a party to wholeness in this realm of time, space, and matter, how can we ever achieve as we can in realms that may not have the same types of conditions? Tiamat and the Black Cross, our tablet of union in the Enochian system, are but what some of what touches upon the issue of red integration and reintegration, fire, air, earth, water, and spirit, are as one in the kingdom sphere, are Malkut Sepirut. We can experience and accept the esoteric and exoteric sides of that as we compress, expand, and shift in our ascent. Jinn, or that which is or that which are called undead gods, existed before humans and will after our lives. Latter-day Saint Satanism, articles of faith, might have, we believe, demonic spirits have revealed, now reveal, and will yet reveal many great and important things pertaining to the infernal kingdom towards their varied ends, and what that does for a Satanist. A 13th could be, we believe in expressing as wanted in our own truth, actualization of our sexuality, benevolence unto our own, and in following certain methodology, we believe what we want, we hope for what we want, we survive to seek after what may be lost, sensuality, emotionalism, and to even become malevolent if it is for our becoming. The power of blood magic was known from ancient Egypt to India. The same entities and types of entities were known by different cultures, by different language terms. Dragon cults were known from ancient Egypt to China. Their afterlife and spiritual realms, cosmologies influence those of later societies and faiths. The light of Drahuti, Thoth, was not vicarious or some Christian sort, but that thinking is buried under their fanaticism, his ability to be beyond what is thought of as death and to bring out the inner snakes in those who choose to follow him by word and silence. Whose spiritual fatherhood will you accept? And remember, don't be scared by the political terms of having Dahuti being on the right, on that political list of, or the ancient Egyptian list. basically I was saying that the culture, that the politics of today can be replaced by the politics of today can be replaced by, you know, ancient Egyptian models of the same. Okay, let me check here. The Knights Templar were those allowed to commit sins that no other was to be allowed, and they were thought to carry on unapproved of heresies. The whole of pre-Christian afterlives was demonized into a real hell for what was unchristian. Paparis Camiltonus Christi Salamoniki the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon were not Satanists, but they may have been aware of some idea of a species that I refer to as Baphomet. You know, a species of spirit. Alternative narratives to Christianity and secrets of even satanic cults. Their legacy lives on in the Freemasonry. And the Knights of Columbus, just as they informed cultures. The Order of Nine Angles, in their concept of a female Baphomet with Shaitan over earth, hopes to revive old teachings and inform a transformation towards a new age. The imperial and royal dragon court and order extends from the First Reich to the Third Reich. Vlad II, Dracula the Impaler, is probably the best known of its members, you know, for being a member. And the Iron Cross of Germany, as the Second Reich had a dragon with it during the times between that and the Teutonic Orders, 1219 of the Vulgar era, dignity they received from the Knights Templar. When the two were combined, it was a symbol to be worn for life. Think of Tiamat's sacrifice unto the four types of creation, and its being treated as the mother of all the cosmos, which can be related to the Order of Nine Angles concept of Baphomet. The imperial and royal dragon court and order had 5 holy obligations, which particularly differed with the Christian objectives, but they were not Islam's 5 pillars either. The Serbian Orthodox made Dracula a saint for his effect on the Uthmani Khulafa, but the liberating influence lived on more in the French and American rebellions. It came from what came before Christianity, and it had then broke free from being bound to any church. I would agree that the United States of America remains the land for predators and prey. Some call it the Great Satan, with its Israel as its proxy being the Little Satan. There are those in power that are not presidents or church leaders, but they are not those who decide the values of liberals and conservatives, like on the Devil tarot card and in passages of Al-Quran that can be related to Surah 4, Ayat 119 through 120. People tend to be willing slaves to something other than their true nature and purpose. No external control can make us ultimately choose other than to do the best with our capabilities. But most choose to suffer. I am not talking economic or physical classes over each other, but we are reached out to by groups that imply their messages behind open media and monuments. Want to be a member? Atlantis is a secret that more people are seeming to know beyond New Age invented doctrines. With the vitality of eternality, we can return to serve our own ends instead of going with the flock. There is a family to be a part of, besides the flock who fights the mechanics of it, and the other flock becoming the mechanics of it. Are you ready to know the spiritual informants of what degraded into many forms of statecraft and priestcraft? Predatory humans can be seen as perverted and criminal. Others will see them as amoral beings who prove themselves in competition. Aside from Islamic, democracy and republics need to invent themselves constitutions and laws to not have any grasp, to have any grasp of rights that are inherent. But even those seem to represent those of groups and individuals that made the effort to gain that sense of power. The rewards and ranks of society are shallow shells of true honor and dignities. We are not meant to be stuffed suits or with identities only labeling what movements or groups we are connected to. Physical evolution is to say what survives and reproduces is most evolved. Societal evolution would be what has the greatest influence is most evolved. Psychospiritual evolution is to survive the pressures of life as your authentic self and do something worthy of a legacy. Then, transhumanist and transcosmic Satanism will not be escapism, but realization as yourself, as more than a human being, and as more than a human being in an existence that is beyond presumptions. So what is your choice? And, you know, some stuff is being bounced off this book, some stuff's being bounced off the Australian version.